guys, we have Mia Braddock today, and she is from the Sailor Foundation in Florida. Mia, why don't you tell us a little bit what you do in this organization and tell us where the organization is and so on. Go ahead.
My name is Mia Braddock. I work for an organization called Sailor Freedom. I am located in Bradenton, and our organization's headquarters is in Sarasota, Florida. We serve a lot in the Tampa Bay area, but all over Florida and all over the country if we have the opportunity.
You are managing or you are working in this organization. Am I right?
So I am a prevention advocate. So SELA has multiple arms within our organization, and they all do different things. The arm that I work for is prevention.
How and why did you decide to work for Sailor?
My story starts in Jacksonville, Florida. That's where I grew up. That's where my experience with trafficking and exploitation happened. So I was struggling with addiction issues. I was in a situation where I was being trafficked, and after an arrest, I was given the opportunity to complete drug court. While I was in that court, I was sentenced to spend some time in a rehabilitation center in Jacksonville. While I was there, I opened up to the people on my team about what I had been experiencing, not really knowing at the time that it was trafficking, but just kind of sharing with them what my life had been like for the past several years. And they started to reach out to local organizations to try to um, find somebody that could help me, find services for me. And the first couple organizations didn't really fit. They didn't feel right to me. It was like domestic violence shelters, an abused women organization, things like that. And, while that's all super necessary, it just didn't seem like it fit for
Wasn't
me.
you.
Right. And then finally, I met with somebody from an organization called the Open Doors Network. And it just so happened that that organization had recently been on a tour of Sailor Freedom. So when I explained to them what my situation was, the things that I had been going through, they're like, we know how to help you. Like we know of an organization to refer you to, and it's gonna be good for you.
I would like the audience to know more about you. So, would it be okay if you told us a little bit about you, meaning what happened? How old were you when you were exploited?
I was a victim of childhood sexual abuse, starting at the age of 12 from somebody that I thought I knew, somebody I thought I could trust. And I didn't tell anybody. So that event kind of sent me down a spiral. Along with a lot of other factors in my life, I always struggled with self-esteem, with not feeling like I belonged, not feeling like I fit in. There was a lot of things in my life that I didn't realize at the time, and that I don't think the adults realize in my
But you were 12 years old.
yeah, realized at the time made me vulnerable. So around the age of 12, I started acting out in school. I started engaging in a lot of high risk behaviors. And as the years went on, um, I was sexually assaulted multiple times. So I'd kind of turned to drugs as a way to numb, as a way to forget, and as a way to build this reputation for myself, right? I wanted to be tough. I wanted to be liked. I kind of took on this reputation as like the party girl, and I was getting the attention that I had always wanted. So in my brain, I kind of switched my perspective or reframed some of the events, some of the sexual abuse that happened to me. And instead of, looking at it as like something that made me a victim or something that was wrong or bad, I kind of switched it into like, this is my purpose. This is what I'm wanted for. Like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So at the age of 17, I met somebody that was about 10 years older than me, and he was my first introduction into the life, into sex work, into things like that.
So at the age of 17, you met someone who was 10 years older than you. So
Yes.
how did he, right? He or
Yes.
she, how did
It
he,
was a he. It was a he, yes.
how did he introduce you? Like, what was the convincing point? Like, what did he say to you that convinced you to get into sex work?
So, like I shared, I always struggled with self-esteem. I always struggled with not fitting in, not feeling good enough. And I think part of that has to do with the way that I grew up. I was raised by my aunt and uncle. My biological parents were both on drugs, and couldn't take care of me. So I was raised by them from a young age. And while I loved them and they loved me, I always grew up feeling like something was missing. I also grew up in a neighborhood that was very nice. There was not a lot of other children that looked like me. And so I just always felt different.
When you
And
look
I
like, what does that mean?
there were a lot of other African American children.
I see.
It was a predominantly white neighborhood.
I see.
And that was something I noticed at a young age. But so with all of these vulnerabilities, all these insecurities, I didn't realize at that time that to an exploiter, to an abuser, to somebody that was looking for someone to take advantage of, that all of those things were could have been written across my forehead. They were plain as day. So our relationship started with him kind of playing into those vulnerabilities, making me feel special, making me feel wanted, making me feel needed, um, always complimenting me. Um, and at that time, I had already, been a victim. I'd already suffered sexual abuse, rape. Um, so I was already kind of vulnerable to this idea, right? Because like I said, I was trying to frame it in my brain as sex being something powerful, sex being my body, being something that I had to offer when I felt like I didn't have anything else. So again, the process was kind of slow, him speaking to those vulnerabilities. Slowly, I started to see the business that he was in. He was a drug dealer, so there was always drugs around. But there was also other girls that would come around, and I would see how he treated them, how he talked to them. I would see him, taking them on dates, taking their money. And when I would question him about it, he would always make it seem like they were nobodies, that, I was better than them, that I, meant more to him than those girls. Right. And that I wish, I could say that like it didn't do something for me. Like I saw him in that moment, but I didn't. All I felt was this void that I had being filled, right? I felt somebody that wanted me, somebody that saw me as special, somebody who saw me as better than other people when I always felt inferior. So that went on for some time before um, he told me one day that he was short on money. He needed money for something. And, he needed me to show him that I was down, that I cared about him, that, he could trust me, that I could help. And he needed me to do a date. And again, I wish I could say that I saw him in that moment, but I didn't. All I saw was another opportunity to prove my worth, to prove that I was special, to prove that I had a purpose. So I did the date.
Was it clear what the date was about? Or was it just go out, have dinner with this person? Or was it clear that you go out and have sex with this person?
It was made clear that I would have sex with this person and give him the money. It was made clear.
Please tell me what you were experiencing. Like, what were your emotions at that moment? Because here you are, hero worshipping this guy who's always made you so special,
Mhm.
looking up to him at all times. And the only one who made you feel special, and now he's asking you to go put yourself and give yourself to another human. What were you feeling at this moment?
He was a drug dealer as well, so there was a lot of drugs around. I already was suffering from addiction. At that time, I wasn't addicted to any particular substance. I would just take whatever I could get. So he just kind of convinced me that it was going to be okay, that it would be quick, that it would be over. Here's some drugs, just check out. It'll be over before you know it. When I was nervous. I'd never done anything like this. So I was nervous. But again, because of the vulnerabilities that I had, going into before I even met him, I looked at it as a way to prove myself, as a way to earn my spot in the world. I had already been sexually abused. I'd already been raped, where I was drugged and these things were taken from me, right? So I almost looked at it as a way to feel empowered, right? I wasn't thinking about the money, not having control of the money. I wasn't thinking about any of that. I was thinking as a way to prove myself, as a way to be useful, as a way to use the things that had already happened to me to find empowerment. And another factor is around the age of 12, at the same time that I was molested for the first time, I saw this show on one of those adult channels, and it was a show that followed the lives of women that worked in a brothel. And all of them looked so confident and empowered and happy. And they had, the house manager that took care of them. And they had a sisterhood and a bond. And it looked appealing to me for somebody that never felt confident and never felt empowered, especially because there was only one African American girl at the brothel, and she made the most money. She had the best relationship with the house manager. You could have said that she was the favorite, right? And I just remember at such a young age wanting to feel like that. I remember that making a huge impression on me.
Because you were insecure about and you were not getting the attention from other people.
It made a huge, huge impression on me. So then fast forward to this relationship, the drugs are involved. I'm getting these internal needs met. Again, I kind of shaped my brain to think of it like that, like what I had saw on TV at a younger age. I thought it was going to be empowering, and this is where I was going to find my place in life. This was going to be my niche, is the word I might be looking for. Um, so yeah, and then I wish I could say I, did the date, gave him the money, and then I was like, oh my gosh, this is not for me. But that was not my experience. I wish I could say that I saw it for what it was, but the truth is it felt kind of empowering. It felt like I was proving myself, like I had a purpose.
Who took you to this date? Tell me a
He
little bit more. He did. So he drove you to the date. While
Yeah,
he's driving you to the date, he is consoling you that everything is okay. Here, take some drugs.
once I started using drugs, and I started engaging in those riskier behaviors while I was still in high school, I ended up dropping out of high school. And it's hard. It's hard to tell my story. So I had been arrested while I was in high school for having drug paraphernalia at school, and I got sentenced to do community service. While I was doing that community service, I met several other youth that were engaging in similar behaviors, and that kind of expanded my social network. So when I dropped out of school at 17, I pretty much ran away. I always like to mention that my parents were always there. They're very loving and supportive, but they didn't know how to help me. They didn't know. They tried everything they could. I was very angry, very rebellious. All of their attempts failed. I rejected the life that they spoke into me because I felt like they didn't know me. They saw all my potential and they saw me as this amazing, smart, intelligent, beautiful person. And I didn't feel that way. So them speaking that into me felt like they were lying to me. So I rejected that, and I pretty much ran away and was like homeless a little bit by choice.
When your 27-year-old boyfriend or sex trafficker, I should say, said that to you. He told you you were beautiful and he told you you were smart, but you believed him over believing your parents. Was that a rebel at an early age as a teenager? Is that the reason why you did that? Like, why didn't you believe your parents?
I'm not sure. I'm still not sure. I might That might have just been a mixture of regular teenage angst and rebellion. In your mind, my mom used to tell me all the time that she thought I was a pretty girl or this, and I would tell her, well, you're my mom. You have to say that. What are you going to tell me? I'm ugly?
Before I became a director, I have been a fashion photographer for a very long time, and you are very pretty.
I just didn't believe them. I felt like they were my parents and they had to tell me that. Like they weren't going to tell me that I was, anything less. Um, and I just, again, I had got, because I was harbored the secret of the things that had been happening to me. I felt disconnected. I felt isolated from them. I felt like they truly didn't know me.
Do you think you were rebelling because this abuse was happening to you at such an early age, and if they couldn't protect you, no one else could?
I don't ever remember blaming my parents. I never remember thinking like, oh, it's your job to protect me and you didn't. I never did. I must say that I was very confused growing up, right? There was not a moment that I remember specifically my parents sitting me down and saying, we're not your biological mom and dad. It was something, I mean, I'm sure they did, there was a moment, but I've known always since a very young age. Like I can't remember a specific moment because it's just something I've always known. Now, if you looked at my life from the outside looking in, I had a mom, I had a dad, I had siblings, I had a grandmother. We went on family trips, we did things as a family. If I compared my life to the life of my peers or the life that I was seeing, other people live, like projected on TV and stuff, I had it all. I had it. But there was always something inside me that felt empty, that felt like it was missing. And growing up, I was angry at my biological mother. I mean, it's not like she wasn't present. I knew of her. She's my biological mother is you know, my mother's sister. So they were in contact. We'd met before, we'd spoken on the phone, but I remember being angry at her. And today, now that I have the awareness that I have, sometimes I look back at that time of my life and I wonder, even though I didn't crave a relationship with her, even though I had a mom and dad, I'm wondering if that feeling I had was just like normal for somebody that was adopted or not raised by their biological mother, but my brain, couldn't comprehend it because I had a mom and dad. Do you know? It might have just been like a, a thing that was inside me that like I tried to reject because I had mom and dad and that's who I wanted. I didn't want my biological parents. I wanted them, but still I'm wondering if that's where that missing piece, that part of me that always felt missing, whatever that emptiness um came from.
I'm going to take you back to the first time you were sold. So when you came back, was he there? Was he outside waiting for you? Or
I'm gonna be honest with you. The drugs that he was providing me, the drugs I was doing at the time, significantly impair your memory. So there is a lot of that time that was a blur, but I was still a minor and he was cautious.
what was stopping you from going to the police?
I didn't feel like I needed to. I felt safe. I felt safe. I didn't He was not abusive to me. He didn't have to be. He had me in the palm of his hand, between the affirmation and the drugs, like I felt safe. I felt taken care of.
And how long did that go on?
Maybe a few more months. It was not like your classic trafficking situation that you that you think of in movies. And I do feel like it had something to do with, me being young as well. I only stayed in that situation for a few months, but by the time we kind of separated, um, I had a new habit. I had a new drug habit. I had a new, I don't know, coping mechanism, right? So my life kind of kind of got stable for a little while. I ended up in a relationship, um, and I thought things were going well. The drugs were always kind of still a thing for me. Like my boyfriend at the time, him and his friends like to drink and I like to do drugs. So when we would go out, they would have alcohol, I would have drugs. And as our relationship progressed, he kind of saw that the drugs were an issue and he wanted me to stop and I couldn't. Our relationship turned toxic. There was some verbal abuse, um, and even physical on both of our parts. And so when that relationship ended, I kind of I felt broken inside. I felt broken. I felt like a piece of me had been ripped out. Like I felt safe and secure and wanted for a while. So when that was gone, I went back to the thing that made me feel that way, right? So this person that I loved doesn't want to spend time with me, but these people will pay to spend time with me. So it was almost a way to affirm myself. Again, I went back to the streets. I met new people. I was honestly on my own for some time, selling myself to support my drug habit
Were you doing it on the internet? How was it?
on the internet. Remember, I had already been exposed. I had already seen how it worked. I saw what website to use. I saw where the trafficker I met at 17 was posting his women. I saw what the profiles looked like. I even helped create some of them. So I knew what I was doing.
At the age of 12, you were molested, you were raped, you were sold at the age of 17. Time has passed. How old are you at this moment?
19, 20.
You're 19, 20 years old who is selling herself on the internet by herself. So no one's putting a gun to your head and telling you to do this, but you still choose to do this. Why is that? Is that because of your drug addiction, or you just wanted to do it to feel empowered?
At that age, by that point, I am addicted to Xanax. I am addicted to heroin. I'm using that intravenously. I'm on cocaine. I'm completely addicted to drugs. So the breakup with my boyfriend only continued the spiral. I thought that I was stable, right? I thought that my life was taking a different turn. And when that didn't work out, when that cracked, I went back to the only thing that I knew, made me feel okay. Again, nobody was holding a gun to my head at this point. Nobody was forcing me. I went back to what I knew would make me feel better.
Where is family at this point?
At that age, I'm young. I'm addicted to drugs. I have a whole host of vulnerabilities. There was not a single night, even though I chose homelessness by choice. There was not a night that I spent on the ground or I spent outside or I spent sleeping on a bench. There's always somebody, an exploiter, a trafficker. There's always somebody that sees that as an opportunity for them.
All these humans were paying you to spend time with them, have sex, and they would also give you shelter.
Not often would I go, see a client or get a call and end up staying there for any prolonged amount of time. That's what I'm saying. The exploitation comes in. A lot of them were drug dealers that they had drugs. So they would say, I'll put you up in a room. I'll give you the drugs. I'll take care of you. You go out, make the money, and give me this much of it. Or give me all of it and you can stay here.
So they were just putting the hooks into you and further down.
Right. So again, not all of what happened to me was trafficking. Some of it was exploitation. They saw somebody that was young, addicted to drugs, had these vulnerabilities, had these needs, and was already, willing to sell myself. So I saw these people as helping me. But now looking back at it, I see that they were taking advantage. They were exploiting me for their own need. I was on my own for about a year before I met what would become my last trafficker. So you asked before like where my headspace was at. I'm convinced now that before that year, I was living in a delusion. I really was. I really feel like I had created this life, this persona. I had created this world, and I was viewing it the way that I had to survive. And that is that I was in control, that I was okay. While I was on my own, there were several times I was robbed. I've had several guns held to my head. I was held hostage and had to escape. I was held hostage by a call and had to escape, um, run into the street with no clothes on to get away because I had been there for days. And every time I was on the brink of something really bad happening or death and I escaped, I did not look at it like, oh my gosh, like you can't do this. Like, look what almost happened. You have to get out of this life. I looked at it as I got this. I'm in control. Like, I did that. Like, they tried to hurt me and they couldn't because I'm in control. I'm powerful. I know what I'm doing. I'm in control of the situation. So then, when I met my last trafficker, that's when the illusion kind of broke. That's when this idea that my life was going to be like those women I saw on the TV all those years ago, he was sure to show me how little control I really had. He was the first person that I encountered that was like so aggressive, so abusive. Like, you're not leaving. You're here with me now. Give me your phone. You get no money. Matter of fact, I don't like your name. Your name is this now. You have to follow these rules. You have to make this much money. You only get this much drugs. Like, completely in control of everything. And again, the way that it happened was kind of slow. Um, we had been um I was at a gas station and I met him, and it was the week there was a hurricane happening, and I had money, but there was no rooms. There was no hotel rooms available. So I was trying to figure out where I'm going to go. And I was approached by this man, and he was like, giving me compliments, telling me I look good, asking me what I was doing out here. We never met, but I'd seen him before. So I knew that he was a drug dealer. And he said that I could stay in his room. So I did. I stayed in his room. All the money I had, I spent with him on drugs. So then when the room is up, we've just been hanging out. I haven't done any calls. I haven't made any more money, and all my money is gone. So now I have no money for drugs, no money for shelter. And he was like, don't worry. Like, I got you. Like, it's okay. You can stay with me. I'll take care of you. Matter of fact, you look a little rough. Like, you're too cute to be out here like this. Is there somewhere I can take you to get cleaned up? So at this point, I'm about an hour away from home where all my belongings are. And I can never get anybody to take me that far. But he's like, I'll take you. So not even thinking again in my brain, like, you've got this, like, this person, he's going to help you. Like, he must care. I put my parents' address in his GPS and had him take me to my parents' house to get cleaned up and get a pack a bag of things. And I was not thinking that I just showed this person where the two people that mean the most to me in this world live. I wasn't thinking like that until he wouldn't let me forget it, until he used that as ammunition to get me to cooperate by telling me what he would do to me, what he would do to them.
To your parents.
Yes, to my parents. He was very abusive, verbally, physically. Um, Emotionally, very, and that's the other thing that sometimes people don't understand about trafficking is they think it all looks like handcuffs and being tied up. But he didn't have to do that. He didn't have to handcuff me or tie me up because he was in my head. The psychological bonds that he placed on me were strong enough to like cripple me, to make me not to fearful of repercussions of what would happen, what would be done to me. But not only that, up until that point, I was on my own. So I was supplying my addiction as needed. Now he's in complete control. The substances that I was on, um, they affect you physically, mentally. You're sick. Your body gets sick. You go into a state of withdrawal, of detox, and it puts you mentally in a complete state of desperation. I don't know if you're familiar with shows like Intervention, and you kind of see when that withdrawal process starts, the person is desperate. They'll do anything to get that next fix, that the next high. He kept me in that state all the time, at all times. I would do anything I could to get the drugs to feel better. If he said he used to like say like, oh well, you can get something if you make me this much money. And then I would do it, and then I would be begging for, what I needed to feel
Right.
better. And
Right.
he would up the number, or he would have some other reason why I couldn't do it. So in that state of constantly having to meet the bar, having to meet these expectations, then you start to crave this person's approval, right? Because you're always performing, always performing, always performing, always trying to make this person happy. And that kind of became my my job.
This is all horrible things that have happened to you. And how does and where does your life switch? Like, what made you make the change? Today, you are who you are, and you're helping others in your situation, who in your past situation.
My last 2 months I spent with him, I was arrested about 11 to 12 times. And on that last arrest, I was offered the drug court program. At this point, I was sure that, if the drugs didn't kill me, that he would. And I saw this as an opportunity to get away from him. I was so hopelessly addicted to drugs, I didn't ever think that I could be clean, but I knew I needed to get away from him. So I took the drug court um, as a way to do that.
Did he approve of that?
No, it was a process to even get to drug court. So I was in jail for a couple of weeks, and I called my parents when I was released. I was supposed to go with them, but when I walked out of the jail, he was there with a bag of drugs on his lap, and I was right back in his grips. The morning of drug court, I had to fight my way out of that hotel room. I had to fight. Um, he locked me in the bathroom, put a nightstand in front of the door, and then I had made so much noise, he wanted to see if the police were called. So he left the room to check. When he left the room, I bust out of the bathroom, locked him out, called my parents, and that's how I got to drug court. Drug court, again, I was sentenced to 30 days in rehab. While I was there, I found out about SELA. I ended up staying 90 days in rehab, waiting for a bed at SELA. I just surrendered. I just surrendered. I remember saying to myself, I don't know what Selah Freedom has to offer, but I know it's more than what I have. Still not sure if it was going to stick, but that was the first piece of hope that I had, that my life could be different, that my life could change. So when I got to Selah, it was a long process. It was not easy. Selah is not an easy program, but it was worth it. They took their time. They got to know me. They met me where I was at. And slowly, through all of the resources that were available to me, I grew, I opened, I blossomed into the person that you're speaking to today. I always tell people what separates Selah Freedom from some of the other programs that are out there is they do more than just take a survivor off the street, clean them off really good, and then send them back on their way. Truly, everything I needed to be set up for success, they helped me with. I was able to get my GED, start college classes, work, I had 2 jobs while I was at Selah. They helped me with reunification, with my family. They helped me complete, all of my court proceedings that I had left, all the open court cases. I was able to have those closed, through work with Selah. They taught me how to be, a friend, a daughter. They helped show me the woman that I was, that I could be, because of everything that I learned there. I have a life today that I never thought was possible. I truly have freedom. And that is why I work for Selah today, right? Is because I want to be that lining of hope for other survivors, for the families of other survivors. My parents didn't think that they would see this day. They were almost convinced that they wouldn't. And I want to be that hope for other survivors' families.
You've gone through so much. I wouldn't. I would break. I would break.
I would say to that, you're stronger than you think. Because when I thought I was gonna break, I I got stronger, and to anybody that's struggling through anything in their life, I want everybody to know you're stronger than you think. And it's hard, but change is possible.
Tell that girl one thing that would make her change her decision about running away with a trafficker or a boyfriend and so on. One thing and one thing alone.
What you're looking for, you're not gonna find out there. You have to find it inside yourself.
How is your relationship with your parents now?
Wonderful. And my relationship with my parents is beautiful. I'm so blessed and so lucky because my parents are the definition of unconditional love. And I've been made aware through the years that not everybody has that. Not everybody gets to experience that. And that makes me so sad because if it wasn't for their unconditional love and support, I don't think that I would be the person or the mother that I get to be today.
How can people reach Sailor or you?
So Save Freedom offers services, offers residential care and outreach care to survivors of sex trafficking and exploitation. We also offer, again, prevention trainings, prevention education to help educate the general public about sex trafficking, about the tactics used, about how to avoid it. And we also offer interagency mentorship for other organizations that also want to fight the fight, that want to get involved through our consulting program. If you're interested in any of those services or just want to be a support to Selah Freedom, we sure could use it. Please go online to selahfreedom.com, and a list of all our services are on there, as well as ways to support Selah Freedom and get connected in your area.
And it's wonderful to know you, and it's wonderful to know that people like you exist. And your strength is, it vibrates. And thank you for that.